Hello, and welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast 00Status. I am one of your hosts, Taylor. What got a 553, Rising Virtue, all those other wonderful different handles and names and such. Hi, hope you're doing well. And with me, as always, is the what do I want to go with? The ignoble, the insufferable, the why did you put us through this?
Yep.
Mr. Sushi, how are you doing today?
I was doing a lot better until I remembered what kind of movie this was. I mean, there's no way to beat around the bush with this one. There isn't. I mean, we both had kind of talked about that, saying neither of us had a good memory of this or what happens in the movie. I think I told you I remembered at least one sequence late in the movie. And I remember you saying you had no recollection of pretty much anything.
Outside of the car, like the car plane bit right at the beginning. I was like, couldn't
it's a haze.
Pull it out of the lineup.
It was a deep haze. The fog has now lifted, though. you can only hide for so long. And we were bound to get into ones that we knew were not going to be neither our favorite nor potentially stronger films. So you can't avoid them forever, as I've already said. So it's probably good to get onto some of them at some point. We're talking about Octopussy today.
Yep, good old Octopussy.
And I honestly, I'm going to let you start here because I don't even know where to start here.
I'm going to start with that title.
Okay.
Well, because it's like you hear it and then you just kind of chuckle like, oh, what a ridiculous title.
Right.
But in the same hand, it's actually kind of interesting watching the documentary videos on it, because that was something that came up because they were worried that it would get shot down by for being too vulgar.
Oh, by the
title.
Studio?
Well, not the studio, but the like film ratings.
Okay.
I don't remember what they're called, whatever, but they're like, oh, this might be seen as too vulgar.
Is that why the theme song does not use the word as well? Was that anything to do?
I might have been.
Okay, because obviously the theme song doesn't use this word whatsoever. So I was wondering if that connects.
I mean, it's a little hard. I will say that, but even a quote unquote non-existent trial at the theme song of Quantum of Solace was still able to put Quantum of Solace in the
barely.
But,
well, one of the words, they only use the word solace in it, but anyways,
well, where I was getting with that is that in the movie, like it's just it's referred to as it's just a pet name from my father,
right?
Which some people get like, oh, that's kind of weird, but then it's like, well, pussycat,
right?
People weren't like, I'm not exactly certain how the etymological timeline of pussy has really been a thing,
right?
I think what's there's like a very lengthy word that some people try to like tie it to, particularly when it's like when referring to people as being wimps or something, like pusillanimous. I can't remember what the word.
Okay,
I'd have to look it up, but there's a word. But anywho, more importantly, it's the title. When you first see it, it comes off, especially if you don't see it as a kid, like, really,
right?
Like, I want to see that movie. What's that going on about? All right, and then
it's a weird looking word, just from the alphabet standpoint, it's a funny looking word. This combination of letters just is weird.
Hmm.
I know that's not making any sense, but just as I look at the word, two O's, a U, a Y, like a lot of letters that just, I don't know, they just make a bizarre combination
It's
to
like
the eye.
It's like Mississippi sneezed on itself, and like that's just I don't know. It's just yeah, it is just a weird Scrabble
Mhm.
bag of letters.
Well, did Fleming choose this word as a tongue-in-cheek reason, or do you know, like, is there?
I don't know
Okay.
100% on that. I just I don't know. I guess I'm just not good enough of a writer to really thread that needle figuring out.
Okay. Fair enough. And I think that's fine. But yeah, I could see this probably was a way to entice people to be, it is definitely a word that somebody might see. And as you said, be, oh, what is that? And just maybe based on that, think it's one thing when it's not that one
Mm,
thing. The type of film, if you see that type, they might think it's a specific type of film.
right.
And so maybe they were going for that. And you and I were just talking a moment ago that also Never Say Never Again, which is sort of this, I don't know, what do you call it, black sheep Bond film. I don't know what else to call it, since it's not really within the universe. But it was being produced at the same time, and
Right.
the MGM studio couldn't stop this other production from happening. So maybe they wanted a title that was going to grab attention.
And kind of pull away from it.
Right.
Yeah, if anybody watches the previous video of Thunderball, there, one of the pictures is a nice splice of the two
Okay.
of the jetpack scene with
Right.
Thunderball and Never Say Never Again.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, yeah, they're competing against that, and it's also interesting in that by this point, Moore's contract is up, and
Well, he'd
so
been up for a while now.
well, no, this is this is where it goes to just one movie at a time,
Right.
and so they were desperate to get him back
Right.
because of Never Say Never Again. It's like, oh
Right.
God, we cannot start with a new Bond when Connery's pulling shenanigans
Right.
and more. Our beloved Roger Moore has now, decided to play these contractual games,
Right.
and not in like a negative way. But I mean,
Well, he was said he was done, right? He felt like he had done his time, and
we'll say he looks old in this movie. You see it, and you're like, well, he's
yeah,
kind of aged.
he does, but not nearly as much as A View to a Kill. And I actually heard recently, and I didn't even notice this, but in A View to a Kill, remember he has that mole on his face, that
Mm.
he had that removed by the time A View to a Kill had came out. And I think there was, I don't know if it's a rumor or if it's the truth, that he also had gone in to get like a facelift, and that's why he looks so much more different by the time A View to a Kill comes out. Because
Uh,
even though he definitely looks older in this one, something felt more off, like about him in View to a Kill.
mm,
This I didn't feel. Yeah, I could notice he was older, but it wasn't as distracting
mm.
as it was in A View to a Kill.
Gotcha. And that's what, 3 year gap.
Well, View to a Kill was 85, so production was probably 2 year gap, right? This was 83, so
It started. They started filming in like July of '82. So
okay. Well, and
yeah,
I would guess A View to a Kill was probably 84. They must have started filming some point in that
yeah.
range.
So
So it's
I mean,
probably
it's
about a
not
2 year gap.
not a whole lot of not a time, but yeah,
No,
it looks like a whole lot happened.
it does look like a lot
Uh,
had changed.
so maybe there is something to that.
Mhm. Uh, one thing we haven't talked too much about is the art. We were just talking about that as well before starting here. The
Mm,
art of these covers and so forth. I don't overtly like this poster that much, but I
mhm,
do like the image of Moore and Maud Adams with the multiple arms. That looks kind of
right.
cool.
Mhm. Any sort of what is it, iconography
Hmm.
of like the Shiva or kind of some of the Hindu deities
Right.
and that sort of stuff. I like that sort of stuff.
Right.
Um, so to see that kind of at least being shown there, because part of the film does take place in India,
Yep.
and that's I guess that's they kind of it's I say that, but it's in such a like a small little tiny it's just like all like focused in within like an area of like 15-20 minutes.
Yeah. Well, probably be hard to shoot such a large country as India, but we do get a
Well,
nice shot of the Taj
right,
Mahal, and
right.
obviously they just filmed that to film it. But
Mm.
um, the one thing I don't like about the India scene though is just hitting the marketplace stereotypes,
Oh,
though, right? Of you got to have a guy swallowing a sword, you got to have somebody on
right.
hot coals. What else is it? Bed of
The
nails.
bed of nails,
And
yeah.
there's one more. What's the other one?
Um, um,
What's the one we're missing? Oh goodness, it's just before the sword. Well, you get snake charming before that.
right.
You get
I'm
all
trying
of
to
those
think
sort of
of
like stereotypical, oh, these is you would see these in every marketplace in India. I'm like, yeah, I'm guessing maybe for the tourists, but not. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone's from India, but I don't imagine like that's as common as the outside world would like to make it seem it is.
yeah, I mean it. Oh no, I'm thinking the rope thing, but the rope thing was a
That happened in
gadget. Yeah,
Q's later. I can't remember what
I
it is
can't
now.
think. Yeah.
It might come to us later, but
I don't know. This movie is pretty forgetful.
yep,
But yeah, I mean, I get why they do that.
sure.
Like, it, but in the same hand, it's kind of like if it would have been a little bit more. Let's spread this out. Let's not put it all within like a five, not even five, like a 3 minute gap. Like,
Right.
oh hey, here's the sword swallower. Oh hey, here's the fire spitter.
That's right. It's just
Oh,
one after the other.
right, and it's just like, come on
Yeah.
now. They're all like with like competing for attention between like the same 8 people that are around. It's like,
Right.
you guys might want to like team up together and do your entertainment at different times.
Fair enough. But I guess again, maybe if that is a tourist area, maybe that would all be in the same location. I don't know, but it seems a bit unnecessary. That's one thing the newer movies does a better job about is really not perfectly, but representing those locales maybe a little bit more realistically. There's somewhat of a distance for sure with the cinematography that happens now, but it's less that because this almost borderline like like I guess it's a bit comedy, but it's almost, I don't know, taking it a step too far almost to a degree.
You think?
It's not horrible, like it's not really like ha ha look at how weird
I,
these people are, but it's still a little
I was
bit like
just,
then we get the goat head thing later and it's like okay,
yeah, that
it's
can
not it's
really
not
set some
quite,
people's.
yeah, it's not like
It doesn't come off derogatory to
not
me.
completely no, but it still feels a little bit sort of like, oh, this is weird, this is some weird stuff.
It's certainly foreign, but I think
But
that's
yeah,
you're also talking about, you know, India in the 80s from like probably less so from an English standpoint and more so like an American audience kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
Like outside of who you go do something like that like in the 80s and in the 70s and stuff, it was kind of like a somebody's an adventure if they went to like the next town over just because of distance
Okay,
and well because we don't have things like phones and
right.
it's a little bit more of a thing. I mean, even like a kid for myself there, just where I grew up, anybody who went like traveled a big deal. That was kind of like, oh, like that's kind of surprising.
Mm.
Like, even where I'm at, like right now, I could tell people that, lived over in Japan for a handful of years. They're like, what?
Right.
Like that's
Couldn't imagine, right?
knuckleball, right?
Yeah, couldn't imagine that that's a thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I get in one hand trying to like showcase as much as and like cram as much as they can into showing things like, oh, elephants, oh, all these sorts of things. I think
Well,
it's
they
just
sure did a bad job of showcasing Eastern Europe, Eastern Germany. That could be
that,
nondescript anywhere.
well, but I think that's it's not like they could just waltz over
No, I
there and be
know.
like, hey,
We're thinking about
descendants of Stalin, we would like to
no, but it's just funny
some filming.
how plain that they want to obviously put it in the film because of their reasons, but it's just funny how they didn't really try, quote unquote, to really make it seem like it was just not some undescript forest or was, but India, they had to be sure, like, we have to get the shot of the sword swallower.
Right. So they're making all that. Maybe that's why there's
Big fuss.
the circus over there in East Germany. They were calling them clowns.
Could be.
Oh boy.
Yep, could be.
But I mean, I get what you mean. It's a fairly juvenile attempt to
Right.
showcase a lot of that. I guess that's where I can see it just being like, really, you couldn't do this a bit better. This is the amateurish effort you put into it. I will say this.
They should have had a final fight on the Taj Mahal, since they knew they were going to be doing the Golden Gate Bridge the next one.
Oh yeah. That would have been fine.
Just start getting crazier and crazier with their final
on just fights on
set
every
pieces.
every different like
well,
distinguishable building.
Just about. I mean, he was on the Eiffel Tower the next movie too, so they were kind of pushing towards that.
Right. And the one thing I wish they would have gone a little bit more into with it is more of the because a lot of the ancient structures that are like carved out of cliff sides and stuff like that, they've got some absolutely just marvelous and just like crazy intricate and beautiful like ancient, not even like ancient, depending on what you mean by ancient, just like structures and stuff like that are really, really sweet. And I'm just like, it would be really cool if they could show that more, because the only thing that people in the States really know that's from stupid ancient aliens. So that's probably the only place that a lot of people have ever seen anything like that. Which, well, okay, at least they're seeing how. At least
cool they've seen it somewhere,
yeah. But
it like, was followed up with an, in my opinion. How many times have we heard that guy say that? I mean, good on him for not just saying, "Oh, this is gospel." Like, you have to believe it. At least he's stating, this is, at least in my observations and my thoughts, this is true. But it's funny how many times he's got to preface it with, in my opinion. Like, he always prefaces it with that.
Some ancient what's that? Some ancient astronaut believers.
Oh yes, believers.
Or some
yeah. Well, some of them. Well, hopefully, if those ancient aliens do come back and they find a copy of Octopussy, they turn right back around and never come back. Like, oh, this society hasn't evolved at all in 10,000 years.
You were doing so well.
Yeah.
And then you fell off.
When we last checked in on them, we were only at Dr. No, and we came back 20 years later.
But yeah, so no, yeah, I get what you mean. It's a very amateurish effort to present it. I will say this though, it was also a very different time, like you mentioned before. Yep. Berlin Wall's still up. Yep. Peter Lamont was on a plane that was hijacked while they were filming in India.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that was certainly something. Like there was a little bit of a gunfight from what I remember on it. Yeah. So yeah, because that was a big thing. I haven't quite had that, thankfully, as much.
No, thankfully.
So it's a little bit more of a common thing, or at least maybe not necessarily common, but more of a presented possibility, we'll say, if that makes any sense. Okay. We don't really like nowadays. It's you don't really see that so much. Maybe I'm just not watching enough TV or movies.
I mean, I don't know. There's so much going on now that maybe it also doesn't come across as.
That's fair.
There's so many different negative events that now happen that maybe, it probably does happen, and we're just not keying in on that as being as much of an issue, perhaps. But yeah.
maybe. So, but yeah. So that's where we're gonna go. Do you want to take the next leaf, or do you want me to
Sure,
kind
yeah.
of push
What do
this
you
further?
think of that opening action sequence and then rolling into the title cards there with the opening song and
I
the
don't.
what do you wow, I always fumble this. I can never think of what to use for just like that opening
Oh, the opening credits.
well, it's like the credits and then like the I don't know, the words escaping. But anyways, yes, the
Uh,
opening credits after the initial action sequence.
like cold start.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of like the idea of Bond doing a little bit more mischievous stuff
Mm-hmm.
when he's on his like on a mission, and here because it harkens back to the old, you know, playing GoldenEye sort of thing. It's like, oh, you know, actually destroying something.
Right.
So his aim to destroy the some sort of dish
Right.
communicator kind of thing. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I don't mind that. Really could have probably done a better job with it since he totally gets caught on it and
Yeah.
whatnot. But
Well, they did a decent job of making the other actor or more. They do look at first glance, if you just walk by, it's not like a completely ridiculous disguise. Like he, at least if
right,
you weren't paying attention, you'd be like, oh, it's just General whomever. I can't remember the
Toro.
name of it. Toro, yeah. So it wasn't like super silly. Like it was played pretty straight to some degree.
Right, it wasn't really goofy.
Yeah, yeah. It was still goofy, but not to the point of there's a scene later on that's much worse than this. So
Mm.
I agree. I think it's okay. Like I didn't love it, but it was something a little bit fresh, right, with the plane and
Yeah, I wonder if because it's, you know, filmed in '82, that practical effect of the plane is a little bit more impactful.
Mhm.
But for our 40 year later sensibilities are a little bit more like, yeah, okay,
Yeah, you're
it's
probably right.
okay, yeah, we can fly drones planes
Right.
ourselves if we want to drop $1,000. That
Right.
practical.
Or they would just CG it, right? Like
Right. Well, I will say this: that whole end bit where it flying through the hangar was pretty neat because they had that plane on a pole
yeah, you can see it just for a split second. You can
just for a
see it.
split
You have
second,
to be
right?
looking for it.
Yeah. And the guy is driving like 75 mile an hour,
Oh wow.
and I think more was in the plane as well.
Oh really?
I could have swore he was in the plane
Okay.
because like the closest doors on both shots from the entrance and the exit are optical illusions.
Okay.
They're actually up really close and they're really tiny, but they're it's at such an angle that it looks like they're really big,
Okay.
or you know, they're actually part of the thing. So they had a huge gap for it and everything, and
Okay.
then also all that stuff up front to try to obfuscate the Jaguar and the pole.
Right.
So, but yeah. Well, the thing was is like like the driver drives through, and I think something happened where it couldn't. The brakes let out or something. So when he gets
Oh.
through the hangar, he just like spins a few times and stuff, and finally just kind of comes to a stop.
Hmm.
So
Well, so when the plane flies through on that final shot, though, as it kind of cuts through and then you get the Bond theme kind of chimes right in,
hmm.
is that actually a plane that's flying through and that's not like digitally cut in any way?
Through the hangar.
Yeah.
Well, it's not flying through; it's on the Jaguar. Or is there?
Well, no, it flies upwards though.
Oh, you mean
When it
F?
escapes, like through like they're showing them closing the doors.
Right. I'm trying to.
Like it's so just the scene before is when it's on the pole and
Right,
it's
right.
going towards the hangar doors, but then
I
it
think
shows
it's a
from the
prop.
outside.
I think it's
It's
a
a
prop
prop.
when
Okay.
when it's flying out.
Well, they did a good job because it looks like a life-size plane
I could
and
be
stuff. Like,
wrong.
I mean,
I could be
they
wrong about
could
that.
well have, but that would have been a pretty risky stunt, even if the doors were open.
Hmm.
Still pretty tight to fly a plane through that narrow
Well, that,
space.
but also that hangar that explodes is like a 1/12 model of the actual one there. So that's
Yeah,
why
but
it blows up into like all those little pieces and stuff.
yeah, but the shot just before that though, it looks like a plane actually does cut through those doors.
Yeah.
But so either way, they did a good job of making it either look really real or some crazy stunt pilot actually pulled that off.
No, yeah, like that's why I think it, it was probably seen as a really cool scene when that movie came out and stuff. And we have Top Gun and now Top Gun the sequel,
Right.
which is practical
Right.
effects as well. So it's kind of like, okay, nice little tiny plane Bond. You have fun with that.
But they sure love giving, since The Spy Who Loved Me, they really like to showcase the Union Jack. Hey, like that seems to be, because that's kind of the decal on the plane is sort of in the Union Jack sort of format. It's not quite, but it's kind of. And then you had with A View to a Kill, right, when he goes to the fake submarine and the thing pops up and there's the Union Jack. So that seemed to be kind of a thing that, I don't know if that's Moore's choice or whomever, but we'll get to The Spy Who Loved Me, and it's supposed to be a pretty, I don't know, marquee scene for a few reasons. So maybe they kind of kept double downing on that.
Right.
But this one's a lot more subtle. Obviously, it's not quite as in your face.
Not as much as the blimp.
Well, yeah. I mean, I could have done with Bond flying off. I was just went right back to being goofy with pulling up at a gas station and thought, okay, this is just, I mean, it's not horrible. It kind of makes you just kind of like, oh, okay. Maybe at the time people chuckled and thought it was cute, like a cute little joke or whatever. And it's certainly not nearly as bad as some of the like the Beach Boys thing, right? Like that was really unnecessary. This was a little more subtle, but still they should have just had him fly off, and that could have been
right. A little too
title
much
credit
whiplash.
starts right there, because it kind of like zooms out and it's almost like a and then like a thumbs up kind of like like kind of thing. And it's like, oh geez, they really didn't need to include that.
Well, gee willikers.
Yeah. Well, what was the Simpsons where Homer meets his parent, or the parents of Hugh, the one that's that future story where Lisa's going to marry him, and he's embarrassed, like he's super scared to introduce Homer to his parents, and all Homer says is, so man, that movie Octopussy, and he's like, I must have seen that, and he pauses twice. And the guy's just like, Octopussy, well, that's not so bad. It's like he was really expecting Homer to basically just completely, make a fool of himself and destroy the whole wedding. Right. Octopussy. Well, that's not so bad. Stupid.
As for the song and the theme song and stuff,
yeah, the theme song,
absolute garbage.
Well, I don't disagree. I don't like the theme song. It doesn't fit the movie. But I found that the actual like title sequence was even worse. It seems so uninspired. It's so boring. Like it pretty much nothing happens. No, which is it's really uninspired.
Some points of naked chicks and shadows laying down and the 007 laser pointer.
Right.
Rotating.
Which we kind of get in A View to a Kill. It's kind of similar, but A View to Kill at least had some visual flair.
Right.
This one just seemed, I don't know why they just weren't feeling it or what.
I'm trying to think. I took a note and I'm trying to remember what that note was. Let me see if I can find it. Song that is lost in the 80s but acting wistful for the 70s.
So if you just heard that song and had no affiliation to a Bond movie, the likelihood is, yes, as you said, it would just have been one of those early 80s to late 70s songs that you might hear on the radio occasionally, right, and just be like, oh, that song. But because it's tied to Bond, I wouldn't say it's more recognized, but it's not just disappeared to the annals of time because it's been linked to this franchise.
Yeah, because that's where it would be, is in the dustbin of time, because it's just not a remarkable song.
No. It's slow moving. It's not really, it just doesn't really have anything to really give you that sort of, I don't know what it is, but it's missing an element. It's missing an element, right? It really is. Like it doesn't really. And it's okay to have a slower paced song and whatnot, but it just doesn't fit.
To me, this is what Skyfall will be in like 20, 30 years.
Maybe, but based on performer, it might not quite disappear if Adele continues to at least sort of stay in the, I don't know if it's a public eye or whatever.
Kate Bush has so many better songs
Mm,
that are just now being rediscovered because people are like, oh, Stranger Things 4 or whatever the hell.
okay.
It's like, or whatever. And it's like, Running Up That Hill is a fantastic song. Spoiler, there's somebody who did I always want to call them remixes, but that's not the right word for it. Nor rehashes. They did their own version of the song.
You just mean like when they take the complete song and just re-record it?
No, they did their own little spoof. Placebo did their own version of the song of Running Up That Hill. Fantastic song. Both versions. Kate Bush, Babushka, fantastic song, fantastic singer, fantastic artist. Like, thank you guys and gals for joining us in the mid to late 80s, early 90s, before Kate Bush kind of just disappeared, like much of everything else that disappeared once the 90s hit.
Fair enough.
Anywho.
Well, you're an all-time high, so.
Oh, shut up. I haven't forgiven you for that email either.
Which one? Oh, was that not just the perfect Roger Moore type email?
That was evil. That was evil. I was anyway,
you started it, so
I did not start it intentionally.
Not intentionally, but I sure made sure that it finished intentionally. Well, he sure loves to use that word in all these movies.
All right.
Every lady that Roger Moore encounters, he calls darling. And it's obviously in a much more British accent than I'm saying it as, but It seems to come up a lot. But okay, I have two things we should get into. One is, it is interesting because you talked about how Roger Moore was pretty much done at this point, and they were going to cast James Brolin as Bond, so an American actor. Again. And I guess they really liked him. They really liked his portrayal. They liked his screen test.
Right.
But they were worried that if Connery comes back, and now they're trying to introduce a new Bond, which is kind of, I guess I kind of see the reasoning, but it's a little bit ridiculous too. But that's when they jump back to Moore and just said, like, basically open the vault, right? And whatever it takes to bring it back.
Yeah, and that's just the weird thing, because we don't even really necessarily think about that so much, of like, oh, American actor playing Bond.
Right.
Just doesn't. And it's weird that they would have had these flirtations with it, with Burt Reynolds and
right
and Brolin there. It's just like, what?
It is a bit odd. I mean, to suddenly change a character, and I know we hear all this stuff. Oh, well, British actors come and play American characters and so forth. Is yes, like that's true, but are they written as whatever American characters, which is fine. I don't think, from what I saw of the James Brolin screen test, he wasn't necessarily trying to portray a British accent. And it seems that the British actors are way better at mimicking an American accent than vice versa, generally speaking. Not all the time, but more often.
Because usually it gets into like it's like the most bastardized Cockney kind of.
Yeah, like it's really, really heavy where you're just
I got that.
That's yeah.
Kind of obnoxious.
Yeah, what's the like, you started getting into like, spent some time with me toothless wench, and you're like, oh geez, this is just so beyond necessary. But that's like any of those caricatures, right? Whether if you have long ago where the guy's in face paint and he's pretending he's an Indian actor or whatever, and you're like, oh geez, like this is just as far. Do people maybe speak that way? Yes, there's probably a group of people that do. However, that is far from being the average person's dialect or intonation or what have you. But it is. Can you imagine Burt Reynolds as James Bond? Like, all I can picture is the Norm Macdonald Jeopardy skit. That's funny. Yeah. Big hat, it's just like, that's all I can picture. That's funny. Secret agent. Yeah. Just because that's the kind of characters he mostly played, right? We're really like cocky. And so it would just be so bizarre to see Burt Reynolds.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah, it would be very weird. But yeah, it is weird that they entertained it to some degree. But, they went back to Moore and stuck with him for 2 more films after. So
yeah, that they did.
Yeah. Well, I digress. leave that to what most people, I don't think most people probably feel this is one of their favorite Bond movies, but you never know. Could be. So
I was,
nostalgia
yeah,
kick could be strong for them.
I will say it's, I'm very mocking of this movie, but in the same hand, it is not nearly as bad as I'm making it out to be.
Yeah.
Like it's just the some of the points that they wanted to kind of level at, like live and let die, like with a simple cocaine expedition
Yeah.
as a thing. I think that's you have that sort of thing here as well, because kind of the
Yeah. It's a smaller scale, right?
it is smaller scale, and then it becomes a bigger scale
Yeah.
real quick.
License to Kill as well, if I remember.
And like I don't mind that, but like
Mhm.
it's all kind of well, it's all starting off with like jewelry, and then fakes versus real, and then
Mhm.
jewelry smuggling and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and that sort of caper aspect. I guess it's not necessarily caper, kind of caperish,
Kind
not
of, not
kind of,
not a lot,
but
yeah.
initially, so you're getting that little hint and that little flavor of it, and then it really, they shift gears and just kind of go back to, oh, the Russians, nuclear weapon,
Right.
and then they just the ad lib game for this time around, they sort of just stuck with tried and true.
Well, one thing I did see and hear was that Fleming didn't necessarily want to make the Russians the bad people all the time. And I think that's why this is sort of like a splinter fraction. Like it's not the all of the Soviet Union necessarily partaking in
Right,
these events, right? It's a splinter general that's doing his own thing. And we kind of get that in GoldenEye and stuff too, right? Where
right.
and even in the other previous more movies with who's that general? Is it Golgov or something?
Gold
What's
glove,
yeah, something,
gold
whatever his name is.
glove.
We'll get to those ones soon enough, but
Mm,
they were kind of not, they were bad, but they weren't really like this really, really bad villain, right? That kind of we know of that was happening during the Cold War. That they're there, but they're not really portrayed as the end game evil entity.
right.
But you just kind of nutshelled this. That this movie is not bad per se, but it's just incredibly forgettable. And it's not because it's convoluted. It almost would benefit from being convoluted just to give you something to remember by to be.
To
But
sink your teeth into a little bit
it's
better.
just it's not even going in the paces. Like the villain is terrible.
Which one?
Whoa, the Khan,
Okay.
he's terrible,
He's he's
terrible. You can,
well,
like he's just
not
he
just
doesn't do anything.
well, because he's not even like the big bad in a way. He's kind of like an
Loser boy.
he, yeah, he is the beta bitch, and
He's terrible.
he doesn't really have that much like autonomy in a way,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
he answers to Octopussy, and then General Orlov,
Orlov, I guess.
yeah, Orlov is kind of like your that balancing act of the splinter bad Russian general who's doing things on their own. And he's just sort of there, kind of like picking up the scraps,
Right.
which could work if he was a little bit more like conniving. And you kind of have that little bit where he's leaving, Octopussy to kind of bite the bullet
Right.
there right at the end. But it's kind of like, okay, you have that, and then because of how it like ends with her being like, all right, okay, I'm mad, and then just kind of her and her army of scantily clad women.
Scantily clad assassins.
Yes, the I do not remember the bikini clad thuggy brigade, but I will make sure to look that up in the history books again, because pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Anywho, they I mean, not to like side tangent too much, I know the thuggies would actually get like people through sort of fake injuries and all this sort of stuff to get
Hmm.
them kind of like, oh hey, yes, help me. You're like, our family's poor and we're starving and stuff, and then the caravan will come and, oh surprise, we gotcha. Anywho, the yeah, he's just very ineffectual.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem, because he's not like a bad actor.
No.
And the scenes with him are kind of your standard Bond fare and everything, but it doesn't have, there's not a lot of snappy back and forth.
Hmm.
and because it just seems like everybody else around him is better. Magda's really like
Better
for what she
informed, better.
for what she is, she even though she's a really like small part, but she's also kind of like the ringmaster of the circus for Octopussy's
Right.
circus. She has her own bits going on and stuff, capable. And what is the his henchman's name? It's like
Binda.
Gobinda, thank you. Gobinda is kind of like always doing the ordering and stuff, and
Right.
like doing all the, and I get it, he's like the in between of, oh yeah, I get the message and then go do things and stuff.
Right.
What is Khan doing? He's reading a book. That's about the only thing I remember. At one point he was reading a thick tome.
I just
That's
remember
the
him basically walking around to places, and that's about it. I mean, you get the hunting sequence in the jungle, but
which I mean could have been, it was pretty
it could have
bad.
been more exciting. Yeah, like it had an interesting idea, but it's just not executed particularly well.
Yeah,
It's
it's pretty like it where it gets really quiet and it's supposed to be tense.
Mhm.
All that goes out the window when Bond just kind of jumps underneath the elephant, undoes the
Buckle.
the buckle, and then is able to like skirt away from 60 people
Right.
with guns.
And then swings off to the
Tarzan
into
style.
the sunset with the Tarzan scream.
Yes.
The actual Tarzan scream too from the TV show. It was not. Oh wow.
That is this movie's Beach Boys.
Yes, it is. This movie's Beach Boys. Whatever. I assume they think that was funny, but it's just not good, right? It probably aged as poorly a minute after showing as it did, whatever 40 years later or whatever it is. So it's just bad. It's just dumb. But yeah, he's such a throwaway villain and not memorable at all. And even when you get to the end point and it's sort of, oh, he's captured Octopussy and they're escaping on a plane, you're just like, really? Like at this point, I don't really buy into this whole like, oh yeah, he's actually, any level of
competency to be able to do anything with what he's doing.
Well, and I don't feel any of the malice from him or anything, or it's just nothing. It's just
there isn't really much other than he's being thwarted. So there's really not that outside of, Octopussy likes Bond.
Yeah, his best scene is probably the backgammon where Bond shows him up, and I do like
that's fair. Yeah,
I do like when
kind
Moore,
of a tense moment.
Yeah, and I do like when Moore uses the loaded dice and he doesn't even look at them. He's looking straight at him, right? And he's like double sixes, and it's like that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was a good, that's a good point. Yeah. But then because he's so ineffectual, there's like nothing else to it. And then Gobinda just crushes the dice, and you're like, okay,
yeah,
all right.
And I like him. I actually like the henchman in this one a lot. Like I think Gobinda actually, he has a good presence about him. Yeah, there's a couple of like scenes where like when he chops Bond in the back right after Magda leaves after spending the night, is like, was he just behind the curtains for 12 hours? Like where did he come from?
Oh no, it shows you right before that.
Did he sneak in?
It shows him leaving the car, that same car that Magda gets into.
Yeah, okay. I guess the focus is so much on her as she's coming down from her dress, right, as she spins down or whatever. And again, Khan just like kind of being upstaged by her, like gives him the egg, and it's just you don't care. You're just whatever. So what, right? And but Gobinda, just his scenes, other than him running in the streets of India, I assume this is supposed to be Delhi or something, with a blunderbuss. And nobody bats an eyelash at this. He's running around with, like an old 16th century blunderbuss or however old that gun is. But
masked that way, but it's loaded like a shotgun.
It is, but it's such it's so plainly visible, and he's just running in the streets, right? And he gets on the tuk-tuk. And so I mean, I have two favorite characters. He's one. And then the other is, I like the guy who plays VJ, who I guess was actually a professional tennis player.
Yes. And
he kind of fills his role adequately. Like he's kind of just like this sort of, I don't know if he's a new agent necessarily, but he's kind of like, and he's not comic relief. He just kind of has a spark to him. I mean, there's something to him. And when he's on when he's in a scene, he just sort of at least has some vigor, right? To he seems to be excited. He seems happy to be a part of the movie, and you kind of see that translated in his character. And yeah, we get some pretty bad tennis jokes, and when he hits the guy and then the crowd looks one way and then he hits him and then they look the other way like they're watching a tennis match is pretty stupid. But other than that piece, he's acting pretty competently, and I like his energy, and meets a pretty grisly demise, unfortunately.
Right. But he's done wrong.
Yeah. But I do like the character. I think he adds a little bit of something, at least some kind of level of energy to the movie.
I'd say Maud Adams, Octopussy. I think she's excited to be there.
Okay.
I think so. Maybe I'm saying that wrong, but she seemed to be not hamming it up, but bringing a good effort.
Okay.
I'd say.
I don't know if I thought she was poor, but I don't know if I would go so far as to say I thought she was really into it, I guess. But
I guess just because of how flat this movie kind of comes off is that because there's just kind of some moments in it where you're like, oh okay, that something like that, you're like, okay, there's still life in this movie just yet.
Yeah, flat is a good way to express this movie, right? And I don't know if I wouldn't say there's disinterest, but there's certainly something is missing. Like there's elements of this where you're just thinking it's not even just going in the paces. It feels even a step down from that, of just put the movie together. Here's A, here's B, and here's C.
Well, I think this is hearkening back to where you said, never say never again.
Right.
It's the movie they're competing with. And I think that's it. That's the problem right there, is that instead of focusing on your own thing, you're looking over your shoulder going, oh my goodness, Sean Connery's coming back in a Bond-esque thing.
We got to do this better than them.
Right. And then instead of just, minding your own business and just going like, okay, who cares? We're going to crush them. Yeah. Right. We are what we are. And that doesn't matter. Instead, it's just like, I think that energy translates into this movie where the main core people who have been around, they just kind of are a little too preoccupied.
They're distracted.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good point that most likely doesn't come up in discussions necessarily of this movie, of some of the behind the scenes. I think everybody knows that there must have been some level of distraction or concern, because I did hear that what's his name? Is it Broccoli? Albert Broccoli? One of it was either him or oh my goodness, why am I forgetting? No, must just be Broccoli. Must just be him. But I guess he was really choked that Connery came back, because I don't know if they had an agreement or anything, more so just through discussion. But when he said he was done, it was pretty abundantly clear that Connery felt he was done.
All right.
And for him to come back, whether again if it's just a truckload of money showed up or whatever, I guess Broccoli felt really betrayed by that. And I don't know like if they ever connected and buried the hatchet or whatever after, but so that probably did distract him a lot. And he was in his head, he's like, we have to make a better movie. But his head was so clouded by, as you said, those other things of just, we just got to go and crush that other movie. It's not about necessarily putting the best product together. It's just, you got to beat them to the punch, because this came out 4 months before Never Say Never Again, something like that. So. Like it came out a short amount of time before. And truthfully, this movie, yes, it did make more money, but in the grand scheme, when you're thinking, I think it only made like 20 to 25 million more or something, which at the time probably was significant, but it wasn't like they absolutely destroyed them. Like Never Say Never Again only made 15 million or something.
That, and it's, who knows how much that really helped. This goes back to it. It's like, trying to beat them to the punch, trying to make a better movie, and instead of just worrying about your own business and taking care of that business. They didn't flub it up, but if they would have stubbed their toe really hard, who knows how much better Connery and the boys would have made. Right. If it would have been like, wow, that was a garbage movie.
It's borderline, like it's pretty bad. Like it's just from the sense of not being bad, but just more so, what did I just watch?
It's the problem of what's the most offensive piece of art is the one that leaves no impression at all.
Okay, yeah, you can't remember at all. Fair enough. So I mean, I would say on the scale of these movies, this one is definitely going to end up in our bottom, whatever, 5 or 10 or whatever it is.
I don't know about that.
10 for sure. I'd have to say it's got to be in the bottom 10.
I don't know. We'll get to it when we get to it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, were there other elements that you did like? Like I know as I said,
So
there were those
like I said,
two
like
characters
the
I did
story,
enjoy.
the story thing, I don't like mind how the story starts off,
Mhm.
because outside of the whole clown aspect, but they get this one of the Fabergé eggs,
Right.
and then it's like, oh, something's up with this. So that, and also the person who delivers it is now a killed agent, 009. And so it's trying to figure out what's the deal with Fabergé egg, what's going on, and then kind of slowly pulling the threads to be like, oh, okay, it's a fake, but it's a really good fake. Why is this happening? And you really don't really get the why so much until, like, I mean, you the viewer gets it, and maybe that's where they did this wrong, because I'm trying to think of where they could have maybe, I think, intersplicing those moments where you have Orlov's parts outside of the general meeting.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if you cut those, if you don't let it be known that that he's the one that's funneling all these things to him and stuff, that he's working with some under the table dealer or underground dealer, like making these fakes, and he's providing them and all this sort of stuff. I kind of wonder if not letting that be known might help make this movie a little bit more interesting, because then it gives you a thread to pull on to be like, what's the deal with the Russians? Why are they, I mean, other than the fact it's a Fabergé egg, like,
Right. Yeah,
but
maybe, because I guess the motives are just they're so blasé and basic. Like you have this general that's basically, well, they're not going to follow my plan to invade all of Europe, so I'm going to finance this myself. Khan just more to me just seems like he's just into this because it's sort of something to do, right? Like he's just not just from it, but no, just like and this isn't just the actor, but the character just strikes me as this person that needs some purpose in life, and whether that's being on one side of the law or whatever, just something to add a thrill to this person's life. That's kind of how I look at the Khan character, and it's kind of dull, but this is sort of how I envision, I guess, and I could be wrong, but just that's how I see the character, as just, this is sort of, he needs that spice of life, and this is something to do, and spending big amounts of money or stealing items, or it just adds something, a cause to his life, because he doesn't have anything. He's ultra rich. He needs something that gives him some level of purpose. So he has to make that purpose.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder if if the whole reason why he's backstabbing Octopussy is just so that he can do smuggling. Like it's not really, outside of being miffed that she has spurned his advances.
Right.
There's really not much, and even that, outside of like where the camera sits on him for a moment, it's not openly expressed that extensively. Which is something that's fine, a little bit less overt, maybe not intentionally subtle, but the subtlety's there. So
yeah.
But, yeah, so Bond's tasked with going and helping figure out the mystery of the Fabergé eggs, and then it leads to smuggling, and then leads to, from smuggling of jewelry to smuggling of a nuke.
Yeah. Don't you find it slightly ridiculous that he was able to swap eggs right in front of a room of like 200 people?
Well, that, and also that he's just like handling it like some sort of rubber bouncy ball,
fondling that thing like
yeah,
well, that's just it. He's just kind of like looking at it. Oh, okay.
That's pretty neat. Let me toss this a few more
times. I'll just steal an emerald from this side, and
right.
But yeah, it's just ridiculous that he it's so dumb. He's holding the program, starts pulling it under the program, and then we're supposed to believe that he has such sleight of hand that the person standing right in front of him with the pillow has no semblance of brain power to understand that he just swapped eggs.
Right.
That's pretty dumb. Like not so much the reason to swap the eggs is dumb, but just the actual swapping of the eggs is dumb.
Mm-hmm.
But as dumb as it is, and as poorly shot as it is, I still kind of find the final fight scene on the plane kind of fun.
I was gonna actually, that's another thing I was gonna point out. Like, props to those stuntmen.
No, the stuntman for sure,
Yeah.
because that must have been yeah, I couldn't imagine, right? Like trying to hang on a plane and whatever and try to not fall off, and it's not a big plane.
Right.
So like I'm sure injury could have been pretty easily had doing that. So.
And it's funny too, because when Khan's like, "Go get him," and
the what
it's like,
out there?
What? It's like, yeah. It's like, are you serious, dude? Just
yeah, and like he could have just knocked out Khan, right? Like, give me a break. Like, why? It is kind of silly that he complies with that. Like he should have just said no, like screw that,
right?
Thrown him out of the plane or something.
Exactly.
But you know, you get but the fight is as limited as it is, and
which is thankful. Like, it's not some sort of ridiculous
hanging on and giving the guy head scissors and throwing him off or something. Right. Like it's realistic in the fact of like, yeah, would you really be able to do much on a plane flying like that? No, you wouldn't. So at least you're right, it doesn't get really psycho of whatever, but it's still silly when he like pulls the antenna and whips him in the face or whatever. Like, it's still kind of silly. And the fact that, you know, like Bond himself doesn't go flying off the plane at least several times, like he's upside down and right. Whatever. And then, like you said, props to the stuntmen when it's not blue screen with Roger Moore or whatever. What a weird climactic fight though, right? Like, I wonder whose thought was, you know, it'd be really cool if we just did it on a little plane. Well, it doesn't it seem bizarre to you for that to be the climactic fight,
right?
And Khan dies so poorly. Like they fall out of the plane basically, and he's just like, ah, and then it like just suddenly crashes for no apparent reason.
Well, he took out one of the engines.
Yeah, but still, like, they were in the sky as long as they were with one engine. And now it's like, oh, Bond's gonna roll and nearly fall off the edge of the cliff, and Khan's just gonna go no, and suddenly blow up. Like,
right?
It's kind of silly. Like,
it's horribly silly.
He should have like choked him out with the seatbelt and like tied him to the or something, right, where he couldn't jump out. But it's just silly that it's like goes over a cliff and suddenly the plane just starts nosediving.
Right. The magic of storytelling.
Yeah. Roger Moore used some telekinesis on the plane or something. You know, that's how he didn't fall off either, right? Like he used some sort of, I don't know, magnets in his hips or something. Yeah. Magnets in his steel leg that he has or something. But it, you know, as silly and as over the top as it is, I still find it kind of amusing. And this was the one scene I told you I remember. Like, it's fairly memorable from the rest of the movie not being. You might at least remember, you know, this fight on the plane and you know, him falling, and he's obviously wearing a parachute as he's falling, like, because he looks like he's gained about 300 pounds. He's falling off the plane, but still, like, it's kind of memorable, a memorable set piece, as silly as it is.
Watching through this, one that does stick out to me are the bits on the train.
Okay.
Just because of how close some of those are. Yeah. Like when he pops up on the first one and then the bridge is right there and he's like jumped down. The stuntman for that actually shattered his leg.
Ooh. Is that when he runs into the bush?
No, he hits.
That's later.
There is a, I don't think it's in the film, but there's a point of which they're filming, and then they are filming on the train at a spot that they hadn't done scouting for.
Okay.
And the stuntman, much to his credit for like the strength he had to like hang on, but his leg blasts into one of these like stone jut outs, and it shattered his leg, and it really brought the energy down, obviously. Wow. For the like he fully recovered after like 6 months or something wild. Geez. But like yeah, like tore a bunch of skin off his leg, and it's just like oof.
Oof, yeah,
But
that's pretty horrible.
like not necessarily that accident, but just some of the stuff on the train where he's hanging on and he's avoiding the low bridges and stuff like that was a little bit more impressionable on me on that front.
Okay.
Outside of the the weird twins,
Right.
thing really didn't pan out for me, like because
It's pretty underutilized too. I mean, like
right.
you get that scene early on with the clown where it kind of implies maybe they have a bigger role, but they really don't.
Right. Then Bond takes care of them each individually. No psychic twin powers to forewarn the other kind of thing. And it's just yeah, it's like there's that, and then I guess because it is so ridiculous is how right before Bond goes up on the train, he's in that gorilla suit.
Oh yeah.
And then Gobinda goes and grabs the sword, which is right there. It's not like he, had to go into another cart and then come back after fumbling around trying to find one. No, there's a sword right there. He picks it up, unsheathes it, and Bond's already up on the thing, and it's like how like it's like, who are you tricking? Because it's not the audience. Like, we see this.
I don't know, but some of these choices are always going to be kind of, I don't know, maybe in their mind they think, oh, the audience is not smart enough to catch these things. I guess the idea and the direction. So
I think object permanence was an understood concept.
Well, this is John Glenn directed. No, just like this is John Glenn directed. Is that correct?
I think so.
And he's done what, 5 in a row or something by the time we get to View to a Kill. Like he did a pretty solid chunk in a row.
Did he do that many in a row?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he did. It's a few. It's quite a few.
I don't think he did that many in a row. That doesn't sound right.
For some reason. Pretty sure he did. All of the ones he did were all in the same stretch in a row. Like we had the other ones that like Guy Hamilton and those guys that did like one and then they disappear for one and they come back for 2 or whatever, that kind of stuff. But pretty sure he did like 4 or 5 in a row.
I guess you're right, but this is because I had to look
double check
up. Yeah, because I was.
Well, how many is it? Is it 5?
It is 5, but this is only the second one.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, because he does For Your Eyes Only, The Octopussy, then A View to a Kill, Living Daylights, and License to Kill.
He did License to Kill as well?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, he
was
From my recollection, he really improved by those Dalton ones.
He was the editor and stuff on Her Majesty's Secret Service, Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker. He'd been around a bit.
So he'd been around a long time. Okay. Not to say it's like poorly directed or anything like that, and it's not poorly shot. I just think the whole production is affected by, as you said, probably being distracted, and probably brings it down. But I feel like progressively his direction does improve.
I was gonna say, with like A View to a Kill, as goofy as that movie is, it does have some interesting directional choices.
Yeah, no, for sure. So
kidnapping and
well, I mean that's script writing. That's a whole comedy. But some of the shots, like when Mayday's coming out of the tunnel and stuff, like that's a really great shot. Like there are some really good shots and stuff in there. But I do feel like he definitely does improve.
What's that building that was on fire? Like that's to put the effort into that. What's that?
The City Hall or whatever.
City Hall. Thank you. Yeah. And doing that, like.
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, no, for sure. I don't personally think I have much more to say in this movie. Like the score, well, no, like just honestly, I don't know if I can go any further with this just because it's not a strong movie on the whole. It's so much forgettable about it.
We've just kind of glossed over the story, glossed over.
Well, which is what they do themselves. They do a pretty good job of not telling us much. So
right. Well, but like you said, it's pretty plain out in the point. That's why I think maybe like cutting the scene after Orlov is given that message. So you have like some sort of at least an idea of something goes on with it, but you're not just certain what. And the
Right.
secretary gives him that message, and then not having anything like the the other stuff with him, because I don't really like him.
Mhm.
I think he plays it a little too hammy,
Okay.
a little too.
Stereotypical bad guy or
I
whatever.
want to be violent.
I want to be.
A little too much bloodthirst
Yeah.
going on with him. But he at least looks like, I think he looks like a good fit.
Yeah.
But just his acting didn't really
Well,
do
he
much
gets a
for me.
pretty grisly death.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, shouldn't try to like abscond into, West Germany.
No, but then just like, next train's going to come through and crush whatever's left of him.
Yeah. Well, I said that is the noble end of a thief.
Do you know what probably should bother me more, but it doesn't? Is the whole Roger Moore dressed as a clown thing.
It actually doesn't, surprisingly enough.
It doesn't. Like it feels like it should be way more silly, but it's not. It's I wouldn't say it's played directly straight, but he's not, performing with the other clowns. Like he's only doing that to get into the circus and
Well, and
to hide
I think
from this from the
it works well in the
military.
gag,
Mhm.
sense, where that's kind of going on. Oh, he's a clown. He's playing like it. I think that helps keep it from being too silly,
Mhm.
because it's actually playing really well in that scene. However, that scene is absolutely bonkers. Things, they're like, I think if anything, they should have. And I get it. The tension of, oh my goodness, there's only 14 seconds left
Right.
on the thing, and it's like, if they would have just kind of rolled it back a little bit,
Right.
maybe give them about
Well,
15 minutes to work with.
how quickly the U.S. military, those authoritarian guy, I don't know what their ranks are, but just like,
Right.
there's a bomb. Oh, okay. Like they like they just, oh, okay, there's a bomb. Let's go get it. Like it's just that whole sequence
What? A
is
bomb?
so fast. It's so fast. And then after that, I love how it's that announcement. There was an emergency. You are all safe. It's so stupid.
It is really weird.
It's so silly. And it says, did they rush to put this in? Because, like I said, I feel like Roger Moore dressed as a clown. It should have, on paper, you hear that and you think, oh, this is just another one of those Beach Boy type
I
silly.
bet
No,
he
it's not. It's not.
absolutely was like, so like, yes, give me this scene. I could just see him
Maybe,
being like, I'm for this.
maybe not. But he doesn't play it so over the top. Like he does to a smidge because he has to, but he's playing Bond still. Like he's not just,
Well, in
play
a weird way,
cue the cute crazy clown music. He's going to come out of the clown car now. Like it doesn't do that.
in a weird way, he becomes a lot more like exasperated,
Mm-hmm.
concerned, kind of
Yeah,
like, he's a lot
that's
more
true.
emotional
That's true.
when the clown mask comes on.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was certainly a lot more emotional than when he put the gorilla suit on. Do you think he had a check box though? Like, okay, got to be in a movie that has a dirty title. Got to wear a gorilla suit at some point in my run as Bond. Got to be a clown. Like, what else did he have to check mark on this? Like,
Yeah, Mac
take
Maud
the
Adams
virginity of
twice.
a take the virginity of another character. Uh, yeah, okay, Mac Maud Adams twice. Uh, travel to India. Like I'm just trying to think of the travel to space. Shoot a space laser.
Space laser.
Like, did he seriously have like a 30 box checklist that he had to have all these ridiculous things? Have to literally almost fall from space and get saved by a circus. Because that happens in, what is it, The Spy Who Loved Me, where he falls into the circus with Jaws
into
or whatever.
the tent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like fight, have a fist fight on a flying airplane with one engine. like just almost a swing like Tarzan, like almost anything and everything you could think. Like anything and everything. Do you think Roger Moore had a checklist? I feel like there must have been, because there's so many ridiculous things that happen in his 7 films. I don't know. I don't know what else to say, but just yeah. Anyways, I personally don't have anything else. I don't know if you have anything you wanted to still throw out there.
I think I guess the other thing I can think of with like Octopussy's character is that there is this connection that is very brief. We mentioned about her father,
right?
And like, to me, I think that's the scene that makes me think, Maud Adams was invested in doing this. Just because there's this really sharp line that I like, because Bond goes and finds this what's the rogue agent, I guess you say, or
sure,
somebody who is derelict in duty.
Yep.
And then she's like, oh, that was my father. And he's like, uh-oh. For revenge. And she's like, no, I want to thank you. Right. For giving him a way out. And I was like, oof, that's kind of it's a little bit more of a darkly tinged line there, because Bond doesn't immediately arrest him, but gives him 24 hours. And then in that 24 hours, he ends up, he kills himself. Right. So it's kind of like I guess a thing that doesn't really get as much because it's super brief in this, but also just a very like throwback kind of concept of somebody willingly killing themselves because they're like, okay, I always think of Cato the Younger, which is, I know, historical kind of nonsense, when Caesar's coming to like basically capture him, but then free him to be like, hey, I'm Caesar, I just did you a solid, now you owe me, right? Because people hated that, and Cato the Younger was like, no, that's not going to happen. I will literally, I will cut my guts out with my toenail if I have to, kind of thing.
I was in plastic butter knife, but
I was going to say spoon, but that was already tried. That was Robin Hood there.
I'm surprised Roger Moore's Bond didn't kill somebody with a spoon. Because Roger Moore had like a thing with guns, from what I recall. Like he had some sort of bad, I don't know, history or trauma with guns of some kind, and so he didn't want to kill anybody with guns. He did not
mind killing people, Russians. He shot dude square in the eyes.
No, I know, but I did hear he was not a big fan of, and that's why so many of the movies he either doesn't really use his gun, or it's some sort of,
he didn't use it just because he was too powerful with it. Maybe too deadly of a shot.
Maybe. Yeah.
Really quick, people's foreheads.
Yeah, I thought of one thing we didn't really touch upon is Q actually has a little bit more to do in this than usual, because he's out there fishing, and he's kind of doing some recon from a distance, and then we get a random Q branch in India, right, which is a bit random, but he gets. I like the Bond pen with the acid. I was like, oh, that's kind of something different, right? It was, and it wasn't used in a really goofy way. It was used for something pretty logical, right? We do get the funny cue where he the door thing with the spikes and it smashes the dummy, and I was like, oh, that's just like kind of that classic, like, oh, Q's got all this random stuff around, right, death devices all over. But yeah, he gets a little bit more to do in this one, which is nice to see him kind of get out in the field a little bit. Not for much, but a little bit more than we would usually see him. Usually in there for that 2-minute thing of here's your stuff, see you later.
Yeah, he about 3 or 4 scenes at least.
Yeah, something like that. He gets a little bit more screen time than usual. Yeah, because he's in the hot air balloon scene too. Yeah. There's your other Union Jack, like you said.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. But that's all I got.
That's I'm tapped.
Sounds good.
So do you want to lead the charge on me?
Sure, I sure can. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna go with 2, because this movie is it's just far too forgettable, and for so many reasons. Unfortunately, it just is. And I don't really have anything else I can say about it that we haven't covered at this point. I just feel 2 is an appropriate number here.
Okay. I'm going to be a bit surprising on this. And yeah, I mock this movie and stuff like that. But it is such a, to me, the inoffensiveness of it is what makes it all right.
Oh, okay.
Like I would say this is such a middle of the road kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like so I'd give it like a 3.5, like
Oh,
just in
wow.
the middle. Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm watching it, I'm like, okay, like it's not impressionable, but it's not awful.
Okay.
And for me, this is one that outside of the ridiculous name and Khan's actor hamming it up saying Octopussy
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 times. Like it's really just not a. Is it a great example of like Bond in general? No, obviously not. But it's not. I don't know. Like watching it, it wasn't nearly as much of a slog to watch as some other movies have been,
Mm-hmm.
and some other movies will be.
Yeah. Okay.
Like so, to me, it's just kind of like it's just as flat and as ineffectual as that movie is and as villain is just kind of a middle of the road sort of thing for me.
Mm.
It's one of those things you can, because it is so forgettable, you can turn it on and then watch it
Walk
and then be
away
like
and yeah.
right, or you can just have it on in the background and then be
Right.
like, oh okay, and then you look up and you're like, oh okay, whatever.
Sure.
So like to me it's not bad.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
so I guess I can't give it a bad score, like as much as I don't like ribbing it, and just kind of like, okay, whatever.
Fair enough. Well, my 2 stars go for Gobinda and BJ. That's
There
they
you
get
go.
the 2 stars.
So
No, that leads to your picking the next movie.
I am. And I was very decisive in what I wanted to pick, but now I'm kind of torn between two.
Okay. Well,
But
usually you ask me if I have any idea what.
yeah, did your crystal ball see into
Well,
my heart?
to one point, I thought so, but I didn't also think you were going to come out as high a score necessarily for this movie. So I
Yeah.
was thinking you would might want to cleanse the palate, if you will.
Uh,
So I was thinking you were going to go with Brosnan and something like Goldeneye, but I'm not sure if that's really going to be the case because I thought you would dislike this movie more than I
uh,
expected.
well, you're a little murky, but you're in the right region. And I'm thinking we'll go with I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm actually gonna change gears. I'm gonna die another day.
You're really going off the deep end.
I'm gonna I'm gonna leap, make that leap.
Okay.
That's where we're gonna go. I had a
Um,
different one in mind, but I was as we got closer to doing this recording, it's sort of crept in there. I'm like, I think I want to get this one over
okay. Fair enough.
with. So
That works for me.
Brosnan it is.
Okay.
We're
Sounds good.
going back.
And this is the first. Am I correct? Is the first Brosnan? No, sorry. We watched
No.
The World Is Not Enough. Never mind.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. What?
So
Long
there's only
time
one
ago.
actor we haven't showcased yet. Then.
Right.
Okay.
But I mean, it's a little harder because just got the
No, it's okay. No, I
the
just
two.
thinking off the top of my head that. Well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
it's only the pair. So
all right. So we'll do Die Another Day.
okay.
We'll go with that one.
No Time to Die Another Day.
No Time to Die Another Day. Yes.
They should just throw both of those actors into.
I have a
into one
license to
movie.
kill. No time.
Yeah,
To
they
die.
should just throw them both into one movie and see what happens. Let them play in the sandbox.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yep. All right. So yeah. I very yeah. I don't know where to go with this one outside of thanks for listening. Have you got anything to add to the malaise, the blase, the frappe of ordinary and not so distinct Octopussy? Yeah. comment, let us know. And all that fun jazz. But that's it for the two of us. Thanks for listening, and we will return.